It is through getting real with oneself and creating space for a shift in perspective to occur that brings us home to ourselves, where we realize that all of who we are is welcome.
Hello, welcome. Ugh, I'm so excited to have you here. It feels like the word honor, I feel like I say that with all my guests. Like it's such an honor for you, like for me to have you here, which it really is, but I don't know if that word like captures what I'm feeling right now. So just yeah, extending my gratitude for you being here and sharing this space with me. It is pretty incredible to observe like our connection blossom because it feels like it's been a lifetime and it's, in the human construct of time, only been a matter of weeks. So, really beautiful. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. It feels, yeah, like it's been a matter of weeks since we've kind of really been in each other's like lives, but at the same time, it's been in the works, it feels like, for years that we've kind of been orbiting each other's energy.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, somehow, I mean, like you said, the construct of time, it doesn't exist. Um, but it feels really, really good to be here. And like this has just kind of been on the horizon for a while. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and so for those who are listening or watching that may not know you, do you mind just telling me and us, because I can get to know you all over again, right? Just tell us a little bit about yourself. Um, what makes you you?
Yeah. So I'm Lindy. That's uh my name. That's my name. Um and um I am an artist, I'm a traveler, I'm a soul in a body. I've always felt a little bit weird with, terms and labels and words and stuff to describe people. But yeah, I'm a person who's been kind of on a journey my entire life. And I've, used creativity, writing, photography to kind of understand myself, as well as traveling. I've been a, intentional traveler for most of my life. And there, yeah, I guess looking on from the outside looking in, that's probably how other people, would see me. And so actually I have no idea how other people would see me. Um, but in a nutshell, I guess that's kind of me.
Okay, first of all, your laugh is like infectious. I love it. I don't know, it's just so full of life. And the smile across your face is so big and beautiful. So that's one thing. And okay, so you said something about like how other people see you, and then you were like, wait, but I actually don't know how other people see you. So, in the ways that you just kind of described who you are, is that how you see yourself? Like in your essence, is that how you would like you see yourself? Or is that the answer based off of how you think others see you?
I think that's my answer for within the confines of using human language to describe
Mm, hmm.
me. Um,
Hmm.
because in how I see myself, I feel myself called to say like I don't really see myself, but at the same time, obviously, the only thing I see is myself, right? Everything is a reflection
Hmm.
of me, but I don't. I've always just kind of honestly seen myself as this, yeah, like living thing that's kind of just existing in this world. Um,
Mm.
there are things that I guess I know about myself now too, rather than see. Um, I know I'm deeply like in deeply emotional. I have a lot of feelings, a lot of a range of experiences. Like I'm a person who feels things very deeply. Um,
Mm.
yeah, and I know that I'm here. actually, I guess I don't know that I'm here, wherever here is. I've been a lot of places that I was pretty sure I was there, and then I was like, oh, nope, like this. You just never, I guess, really know. But
Hmm.
yeah.
And I appreciate you and the honesty. I hope I didn't like I am projecting into the situation right now of how that may have come off where I like asked that question and then I'm like, wait a second, stop this. But also, all of me is welcome. My human comes out sometimes and overthinks things. So thank you for just answering openly and also kind of touching upon, like, even you just saying that's how other people would like see me. And then you're like, well, wait, but I actually don't know how other people see me. I think that that question of, you know, tell me about yourself, or it can be kind of challenging, right? Because how do you like encapsulate someone's essence into words, especially in a language that sometimes can be really like harsh and doesn't quite translate into the energy behind what's being said. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Just now I'm going to go into this is me catching myself and not going on a tangent with that. But just, yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you for your honesty. Um, so intentional traveling, because that's something that I'm doing and so I'm just like focusing on that right now. Um, where in the world are you right now? And can you kind of tell me and whoever's listening or watching, like, how did you land there? And like, why are you where you are right now?
How much time do we have? So physically right now, I am in Melbourne, Australia, in a neighborhood called Collingwood, which is one of my favorites on earth. Um, this is the third time that I have lived in Australia. It is the city in particular is very near and dear to my heart. And how I landed here. So I first moved here in 2015, at the very start of 2015 in January, on a working holiday visa. And I ended up living here for about a year and a half, and would have done anything in my power to stay at the time. Literally would have like sold a vital organ if no way with it. And ended up, it became clearer and clearer over time that a path wasn't appearing. And so I ended up leaving and moving to New Zealand. Oh darn, like had to move to New Zealand. um, but yeah, and for a long time I really wanted to come back here. Ended up coming back in 2018 into 2019 just on a tourist visa and staying with friends for a few months. And then in the meantime, between all of that, traveling and backpacking and living in different places as well. And it was a few years ago that I'd kind of that I let go of this idea
Mm.
of coming back here, that I just kind of accepted that wasn't in my path. And for someone who travels and moves around as much as I do, I mean, there are a very small handful of places on earth that I have ever really felt home. And Melbourne is one of them. And that's where,
Mm.
I've been plenty of places where I'm like, I love this place, but it's been okay to kind of, it doesn't, so much of my soul is there, but I've understood the time and the space for it. And Melbourne always had this door open, like my story here wasn't over. But a few
Mm.
years ago, I really let it go and was just kind of like, okay, it's not meant to be. Um, and then as so many things work out this way, it was once I'd kind of completely let it go that about 2 years ago, a path reopened for me to come back. And I was able to get a second working holiday visa. Um, and I had no real reason to move to Australia, but the visa was going to expire. The way that the visas work, like from the day that it's approved, you have a year to enter the country. And then from the day that you enter the country, you have a year to stay in the country and live and work. Um, yeah, so basically it was getting to the point where the visa was going to expire if I didn't enter the country. And so in September I was just like, well, no reason to move to Australia, also not going to let this visa go to waste. So I showed up not really with a plan, just kind of seeing how it would feel. And as soon as I got back in the city, I was just like, oh, this is this is home. And when I say home, I mean home for right now. It's not forever home, but yeah, it's a long answer to your short question. But I'm here
No.
because I'm supposed to be here, and I'm here because yeah, it's home.
Yeah, there are a few things that you said that are really like present in my energy right now, where it's this concept that, you know, you release the attachment. You release the attachment to being in a certain place, right? Like you knew that you wanted to be there, you felt that there was some resistance to leaving, and then it was sort of this thing of like, okay, I release this and I let this go, and how beautiful that you were able to do that. Uh, Continue on your journey, and then down the road another opportunity opens up and you were able to step into that in another space of like, I don't really know what's going on, I have no like real reason to be, to go back to this place, and I'm just going to do it anyway because that's what feels best.
Right.
And yeah, I think that's so beautiful, just from my own experiences on my own journey and talking with other people too. It can be sort of terrifying, to step into a space not having any real plan, right? And um, also releasing attachments to things that the human part of us wants so badly. And we get attached to these people, places, things, situations, and it's like then we're taking up all this space. And so in the release and in the letting go, well, now we're opening up the space for whatever other magic's meant to flow in. Yeah, and I don't know, I think that's really beautiful that you were able to do that and arrive in that place, and like now you're back there, like
Yeah.
you're back in the place that feels like home. And yeah, I don't know, I just think that's really beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, it is. It is really beautiful, and I'm very, very, very grateful for it.
Mm-hmm.
And so much of what you said about that, it can be really scary to put yourself in those, without a plan, not know, like that trust, right? And then once you're in that thing that you trust fell kind of into, then you have those people and the places and things that you end up loving so much that you end up
Mm-hmm.
kind of clinging on to them. And
Mm-hmm.
it, that cycle of being terrified but trust falling, and then finding magic and wanting to preserve that magic, that has been the loop, I feel like, of my life. And then the
Mm-hmm.
journey within that is coming to the homeostasis of being like letting go of the clinging and the aversion, and the clinging and the aversion of the like, this is perfect and
Mm-hmm.
I must keep it, and or that I'm afraid of jumping off again. And it's been finding this balance of being like, of just
Mm-hmm.
trusting. And the process has gotten smoother. I am definitely not yet in a spot where it's completely smooth. Before every single big trip or life melt that I have, in August I was having these moments where I was like, as it was becoming clearer that if I was going back to Australia, it was going to have to happen soon. I'm like
Mm-hmm.
pacing back and forth, like, but is this really right? It's like, I know that it is, but this is part of my process of being like, okay, but you've got this life, and my life is traveling and moving, but there's always just those little bits of fear that pop up, being like, well, what if you're an insane person for doing this? And maybe you are an insane person, but insane people have the best lives,
Mm-hmm.
like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and
Yes.
yeah, and it's just it, and the letting go then of being, like, I can see the horizon of my time back in Melbourne. I'm not trying to cling on this time and being like, I must stay and live here. I'm like, no, like, I've probably got about a month or so left. I could always come back again, but like, a few years ago I was literally crying like every day. I was like, I want to stay here so badly. And now I'm like, no,
Mm-hmm.
it's okay. Like, because I know what's coming next is going to be fucking
Mm-hmm.
incredible. Oh, now you have to put
Mm-hmm.
a little expletive warning.
No, no, no,
um,
no, no, I don't. No, I don't. This is It's okay. It's funny because one of my other friends that I had on, like, she said fuck, and she's like, oh wait, can I say that? And I
Can I
was
say
like, well,
fuck?
you already did. Yeah, no, it's
Shit,
all of
like,
you is welcome. You could say, yeah, you can.
yeah,
It's all good. I put that there's explicit content, and if
great.
people don't want to hear it, sorry. Like, I don't know.
You'll
They're
be
just
fine.
words, right? We attach meaning to the words. They're just words.
We sure do.
Um,
But,
yeah, yeah,
but
but
yeah,
yeah, no, you're good. It can whatever flows out, flows out. Yeah, I feel like there's I don't know, travel just brings out I feel like another side in me, and it seems like another like side of you where it's just for me it really pushes me to explore the limitations of being a human and figuring out what it means to sort of integrate all of those parts of myself that come up in the travels, right? And uh, the attachments that come up to new places and new people and new opportunities, because every new city brings different energies, and so it's almost for me this it's like constant lessons of the some of the things that a lot of us I think struggle with and go through. I guess unless you've reached this pinnacle of spiritual enlightenment, which if you have, reach out to me so we can chat. Um, and just, I don't know, just being able to really be like, okay, I'm observing this attachment come up. I'm feeling the attachment. I'm observing this resistance to the flow. I also feel it. And that's also okay. Yeah, it's really beautiful. And it's a beautiful mirror, because we both are intentionally traveling. And even for, even for those that aren't in a space where in their life where they're, moving about the globe the way that we are, even just traveling, to a different part of the state, it's all these opportunities to shift outside of the the walls of our human existence. And yeah, it's really beautiful. And it kind of brings me to a really good place to sort of ask a question that I have, which is when you hear all of you is welcome, what comes up for you? What comes up in your body? What do you feel? And yeah, like what does that encapsulate for you when you hear
Mhm.
all of you is welcome?
in my body it feels tingly, but in a like muted way, which is a nice feeling.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, what comes up is, in a lot of ways, the journey that I think I was going to say that we're all on, but I guess I can't speak to other people because one of the things I've learned as I've gone down this path is that so many things that I thought were just like everyone was feeling that, thinking about it. I'm like, oh no, like people aren't.
Yeah.
I've just been like deeply in the throes of like trying to figure out what the hell is going on this like in this life like since the day you were born, and people are like, oh no, I just kind of want to know what's for dinner, and I'm like, that's great, that must be very peaceful. um Good for you. um like yeah, I also want to know what's for dinner, but like more to it. But the idea of all of you is welcome is like that almost summarizes what my journey has been, is that this like wanting all of me to be welcome but not knowing how to allow that, because I just was so afraid of so many parts of me for so long, or so
Mm.
scared that I feel like all I've ever wanted when I go back to like the inner child work, all of that stuff, it's just like to be seen, to be heard, to be completely known by other people is all I've ever really wanted. But I've also been so scared and so not haven't known how to allow people to see me. And I'm finally in a place where like I'm know how to do that, which is really cool, I guess.
Mhm.
Or that I've released attachment, that I've accepted that, like, it doesn't, that, yeah, um, that I am all welcome, integrating the shadow and integrating the pieces of me that I was just like, that I knew were part of me, but I didn't know how other people would react. And that's how I feel like I've
Mhm.
always wanted other people to feel in their life and in my presence, is that I'm like, I love every single piece of you. I love the weirdness and the quirky and the dark and the light and the, like, I want I want to know every piece of the people that I love and the people that I encounter. And so
Mhm.
just creating and allowing that space for, I don't care if it's the pile of dirty dishes that lives in your mind, like, that can come hang out. As well as the rainbows and the butterflies that, make you who you are. But yeah,
Mhm.
it's a beautiful, beautiful concept. And I just think it's really wonderful that that's kind of how you hold the space for this, because it sets the tone of
Mhm.
being like, yeah, bring me your bring me your everything. Light, dark,
Mhm.
good, bad, which there is no good, there is no bad, but yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
Sometimes I need to just sit with things for a second.
Yeah, sit
Beautiful.
sit away.
Yeah, I resonate on all of the levels of all of those layers. I love the muted what did you say? It feels like tingles that are muted. Is that how you said it?
Mm,
It felt in your
yeah,
body, right?
muted tinglies.
Which I love that, which to me translates to this like peaceful excitement, which is just how
Mm.
I'm interpreting it. Not saying that's how you feel in your body. It's like this almost like peaceful excitement or something. And to to feel that in your body and then to hear you explain what the concept of all of you is welcome means to you is it's really beautiful because both truths exist at the same time. To hear you describe how the being seen, like just being seen and being heard at, again, this is me saying my interpretation, what I took from it, you being seen and being heard for exactly who you are in whatever that means for you without other people projecting onto you how you should show up and what you're supposed to look like. And I know for myself, I can only speak for myself in my experience. And I can imagine that there are other people out there that struggle with the same thing where it's like I feel like part of living in a society where we have so much access to so many different things is like this comparison and comparing to others, and how can we find a way to show up authentically when there's constantly other stimuli that we're taking in, and how do we really sift through all of the stuff that we've taken on so that we feel comfortable, and not even just comfortable, but that we feel what's the word that I'm trying to place. See, words sometimes escape me.
Safe.
Yes,
Mhm.
exactly right. Yes. Thank you for telepathically getting that.
I got
Um,
you.
where we can feel safe to be seen and heard in our fullest expression. And that was something for me on my journey that, yeah, I'm very passionate about. I mirror what you say of wanting to just everyone to get to a space where they feel seen and heard and do it from a space of love and are not afraid to express themselves authentically. And, that's partially why I created this space and why I have these conversations and why I am not afraid to just stumble over my words or have my skin turn 50 shades of red and is that a movie? No, 50 Shades of Grey. Okay. Sorry, I was like, is that a movie? Am I gonna get in trouble for saying that? And go off on tangents, it's just, this is me. This is me allowing myself and giving myself the permission to be seen exactly as I am, and not projecting this version of myself that I think others want to see.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you. Thank you for being open and for sharing. And from what I've been able to see from you, both from afar and now from more up close, it's, yeah, you're magical. So I'm glad that you've gotten to this space, and now hopefully we just go out there and keep healing, and we can help others heal and walk back home to themselves and
Yeah.
feel safe to be seen.
Yeah. Um, yeah. And thank you for, you know, creating this space and sharing yourself the way that you do, because like, I love you, like you're just,
Thank
yeah, you're wonderful. And
you.
it's so, the more that I kind of go down this path and the more that I shed different things that I've been carrying and stuff, it's like the more that I realize how much easier it really is once you are just allowing yourself to be and not putting up those, the little pieces or the projections, or I'm supposed to be this way or say this thing this way. And it really does just allow the people that are supposed to be around to be around. It allows everybody to kind of
Mhm.
just breathe a sigh of relief and you don't even really realize it. And I think that for me, it's kind of been twofold, where it's this being seen and loved for who I truly am in that authentic, expression of myself. Um, and then also releasing attachment to how people see me. Because for a while, for a long time, and I struggled with it so much in my mind because I knew that it was actually just complete ego to be worried about, what one random person would think if I shared this piece of writing or something. It's like that. And intellectually, I was like, I know I occupy no space in that person's mind, like I know that, but I couldn't, it took me a long time to really actually let all of that go, and to now simultaneously be in a space where I'm just like, okay, I am allowing myself to be me, to be loved and seen and held the way that I am, but also knowing that anybody who
Mhm.
loves and sees and holds me loves and sees and holds me the way that they love and see and hold me.
Mhm.
And that's okay. And I have no say or control. The only thing I can say, control, do, whatever, is just making sure that I am me, and then they can take or leave that however they want to.
Mhm.
But that is not that's not of me. Um, yeah,
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, this is something I'm actively being aware of and working through every day. It's, I the the projection onto others, and also I think I've come to a place where accepting people for where they're at, and the way in which they receive me, show love to me, respond to me, is a reflection of them and their own experience, and the way that they receive themselves, the way they respond to themselves, the way they love themselves. And so, we can really only meet others where we meet ourselves.
yeah,
And that's something that has been helpful for me is, you know, I I live in the deepest parts of the deepest ocean. And that's the way that I interact with people, the way that I feel. I've always felt such big things, and for a long time I suppressed those feelings so that I could show up, um, and show up in spaces that I felt like if I was too much, I needed to just dim that down a bit. And now it's sort of like, okay, well, I'm gonna just be who I am. and trust that the energies that are meant to flow in my life and stay there will. And if my depth triggers others, please forgive me. And I hope that you can learn from it and I show you love,
Yeah.
Uh, and that's me speaking from now, but like a number of years ago, like I wasn't swimming at the depths. I was more like in the kiddie pool with like my little swimmies on. So it's taken me time to get here. Um, but just coming to that place of acceptance, meeting people where they're at, and allowing myself to see people for who they are, and that's based off of what they choose to show me, not what I'm projecting onto them. And I yeah, I wonder if whatever you feel called to share, if you would share an experience in your life, maybe when you didn't feel seen, when you didn't feel heard. And yeah, like what was that experience like for you? And that's it. There was going to be more to that, but then it was like in my mind, it was like dot dot dot. Let her speak. So that's all.
Um, so when you said that, the first thing that popped up was we're probably going to need a second for me to sit here and think of one. And then the next thing that popped up, and I'm just going to trust this, was actually way back in childhood. And this, no, yeah, this, I was going to like try to quantify and be like, I don't know if it really counts. It counts. Um,
Mhm.
I, as a young child, I don't remember this. My dad tells this story, so this is me retelling his memory. But apparently when I was 3 years old, there was a day that we were eating dinner and we were having some kind of beef for dinner. And I um at daycare or wherever Montessori, wherever I'd been that day, somebody must have told me that meat came from dead animals. It was the first time that it came onto my little 3-year-old consciousness. And I looked at my dad and I said, Dad, did this beef come from a cow? And he said, Yes, honey, it did. And I said, Did they have to kill the cow to get it? And he said, Well, yes, honey, they did. And I go, I don't want it. And he was like, Okay. And, this is the very abridged version of this, but basically, my parents were like, Well, there's this thing called being a vegetarian where you don't eat meat. But that's a decision that adults get to make about their food. So when you turn 18, you'll be an adult. And if you want to not eat meat, you can do that. And for 3-year-old me, I was like, okay, ate the beef, whatever. But it became this battle every time there was meat on my plate that I was like, but 18 feels really far away. I'm 3 and I don't know how to count, but I know that that's not today. And I would push back all the time, not wanting to eat meat. And when I was 6, they let me stop eating red meat. My 6-year-old logic was that there was enough chickens in the world so I could eat chickens and that would be okay. But it was still like, it was like the compromise, right? It was me trying to say to my parents, there was something viscerally in my body that said, I cannot consume dead animals. And I'm not saying that it's right or wrong for other people. I obviously from birth was like, this is not the way for me. But my parents, with the knowledge that they had at the time, which is just that this is what, people eat, and little kids need protein and whatever, they never like force fed me, but it was me crying about, I remember at one point when I was like, at some point in elementary school, I went on like Microsoft Paint and I like made a picture of like a cow going into like a slaughterhouse factory. And I like printed it out and like left it for my dad. And this all culminated in when I was in 3rd grade. We were on a family trip out east. And we went to the seafood restaurant. And my parents did that thing where like there's like the lobster tank and they like picked out the lobsters that they wanted for dinner. And so literally pointed at these living creatures, which were then taken into the back, cooked alive, and brought out to dinner. And I threw a fit. Like ran out of the restaurant screaming and crying. And my parents like sent my sister after me. They ate their lobsters. And it was after that I think that they fully realized, like, okay, not only does she really care about this, but also this isn't going away. At this point, it's been 5 or 6 years of me, fighting against this. And they told me that I could stop eating meat if I wanted to. And so I haven't in, God, over 20 years. And that has come back to me as I've done some of my inner child work in these last few years. It's just kind of being like, that thing where it's like, what's right. I knew what was right in my soul. Little kid me. I mean, I didn't even speak. I'm sure my sentences weren't even completely congruent at 3. I don't actually know how vocal 3-year-olds are, but like, everything in me was like, this is right for me. This is part of me. This is vitally important. And not having that be completely understood, especially by the people that are, my parents. They're my protectors. They're supposed to understand me. And they, again, they were doing the best that they could. And they obviously didn't know, what was going on inside of me. But yeah, that was a very, very early, just kind of like, okay, I'm trying to scream this truth out from me, and it's not being received.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for sharing. It's going back to an age that young, right, where the conscious mind may not be it's not fully formed, it's not fully aware, but the unconscious mind is there and it's online, and that was stored in your body. That experience was stored in your body and in your unconscious mind. And as you got older, I mean, it became more conscious, of course, as you grew up and you were like, I still don't like this. I still don't like this. Like,
Yep.
And, it doesn't, I love that you use that example, and thank you for just allowing that to come through and just be like, I don't know. Okay, no. And just went with it, because I feel like sometimes, especially within like the spiritual community and through the healing, I think that we all, I don't mean we like me and you, just I'm going to speak in a global sense. Like, there can be this tendency to, I don't know if attachment's the right word, but like attach, like, oh, this trauma must be like, if it's traumatic, it has to be this really like deep, serious, like event. And I'm not
Right.
trying to take away from that moment for you,
No, I
because
know. Yeah.
at 3 years old in your body, you felt, this is horrifying. I don't want to eat this. This doesn't feel right to me. And that was traumatic for you, to the point where it carried over into your life and affected the way that you showed up,
Right.
because you knew in your body, regardless of if you were 3, 13, or 30, you knew in your body that this was not your path. That was not meant for you to
Right.
consume that. And what you were putting in your body was going against what your body was telling you.
Right.
And it's like this, I think for children in general, and especially at that age, until adulthood, when we turn 18, yes, our parents or whoever raises us, they do the best that they can do. And at the same time, how do we get to a place where we start to trust in the kids more, and teach them, like, no one knows your body better than you, not even me, not even this doctor, not even this person, like, no one knows it better than you. And if something's telling you it's off, okay, I trust that. And permission for things to shift if you get older and you're like, actually, I want to eat meat, or I want to do X, Y, and Z. I think it's me also. The point of me saying all of this is that I don't think that we could put a specific hat on what trauma looks like for each of
Right.
us. And something like that happened in your life had a significant impact. And yeah, the lesson there is so beautiful, of like, if parents are listening to this, if you have little kids, like, I'm not going to take what you want and leave the rest. Like, I hope that we can empower those kids to trust themselves and their bodies, and listen to them, and not project our own ideas or beliefs onto them, you know, and I don't want to get too far off into a tangent. I'm not a parent myself, and so I'm very aware of that, and I can only speak from my experience. But I was a child at one point. uh, you know, I was a child at one point that had parents and that lived through that, and yeah, I hope that we can move to a place where we empower the little 3-year-olds that tell us this doesn't feel right in my body, and we can like honor and respect that, uh, so that then they grow up feeling like they're heard, you know, and
Yeah.
feeling that they can take up the space and be seen, as opposed to every time they're speaking up about something, it's kind of being disregarded, you know.
Yeah.
um
I
yeah,
mean,
thank you for sharing that.
yeah, thank you for holding it. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, because I feel like that and what you just touched on, I mean, for me, encapsulates so much of this journey is that it's like there are things that I knew and felt and, believed that then I was told by, authority figures or by society or by whatever. And this is all of us, right? That it's like that wasn't right or wasn't the way. And it's been this battle and journey within me of kind of, I mean, even down it, it's all of it is like me struggling with being like, okay, but this is the way that so and so said things are supposed to be, but I know that this is the truth of it, and I look back on to bring it back kind of to traveling a little bit, like when I was graduating from college, everybody everybody was, you know, talking about like the jobs they were going to get at these Fortune 500 companies and stuff. And people were getting jobs in like November for graduating in May. And it's like, what? They're like, I'm going to go work at Ford. I'm like, that sounds like, if that's what you want, amazing. For me, I'm like, there's literally nothing that seems worse than that. And yeah, and all I knew was that I wanted to travel and explore, and so many people. The funny thing was, people my age didn't understand it, and they were like, "But like, how? What do you mean?" And older people, it was a 50-50 split between the people who were very buttoned up and who were like, "But what is your plan, and how will that look on your resume?" And the people who were like, "Do it, screw everything anyone's ever told you and do it." And I was like, yeah, like I know, I was like, that's, and even though I was like terrified and was like, I have no idea what I'm doing, I also was like, I know that the only thing to do is to not do what everybody has told me that I'm supposed to do. That the only true voice in
Mm.
me is saying you need to just go out and figure it out and not do it the way that you're supposed to. And that I had,
Hmm.
at that point, yeah, it had been this battle in. I'm still coming to understand how strong that voice in me is and was, because I've always kind of I've spent so much time trying to go back and hear it, because there have been a lot of times where I've lost touch with it. But even just saying this out loud now, I'm like, no, I mean that voice was screaming at me at 3. That voice was with me throughout my adolescence, when people are like, you know, well, you're supposed to like anything you're supposed to do. I was always just kind of like, that doesn't seem right to me, and trying to figure out how to live in the world while also living outside of it. But all that I've ever known is that voice, that thing that says like, okay, but you gotta do it a different way, is the only one that has ever led me to anything worth leading me to.
Hmm. So how did you how did you arrive at the space where you were able to start really like listening to that voice inside of you? Was there, like, was there a specific experience or something that was like, I am done, like doing all of these things other people say? Was it a gradual thing? Like, yeah, what did that look like for you? Because I know I it's been a journey for me, and I'm at the point where I really trust that. I trust my body and I trust that inner voice. And yeah, I'm just curious, like, how did you arrive at the space where you really started to listen and just follow your own guidance and your own voice?
There are a few moments and experiences that I've had in my life that I look back on as like, there was before and there was after. I don't really have one of those for, like, I'm done with what everyone else says, because I don't think that that voice ever actually really left me. The one that said you're
Mm,
supposed to do it your own way. And I'm very, I mean, my path is my own, but I'm very grateful for that, as much as it's been, a struggle, because I don't know what it would be like to not have that voice, and then one day to just kind of all of a sudden be like, no, I'm choosing this. Because even,
mhm,
you know, yeah, it's just always been there. And I think, I struggled with my mental health as a child, and was in a very, very dark place when I was like 12, 13 years old, when a lot of people are still kind of doing kid things. And I do think that, kind of coming out of that, bringing myself out of that, because I was a lot of the agent that helped me, and my mental health still suffered a lot from 12 until, the last few years even, but it was kind of, from that darkest place up and down, coming out of it. But I think that knowing how dark it can get, um, and knowing what it feels like to not want to be here anymore, that was something that I could see. I guess it was kind of this trial and error, maybe. I knew what felt wrong more than I knew what felt right for a long time.
mhm,
And I could look out and I could see that it was just like, well, the things that, yeah, that I'm supposed to be doing feel really bad, and I don't want to. I know how bad it gets if I let myself continue doing the things that feel bad. So I'm going to try all these
mhm,
other things that don't feel that way, even if it doesn't fit the mold. Um,
mhm,
and the first time that I really remember feeling like pure bliss, um, was when I was 15. I had the opportunity to spend a month on an exchange program in Spain. Um, living with I lived with a host family, but she was a 29-year-old masseuse. So she was, pretty cool. And basically, like, her whole thing, she was like, you're here to like live and explore and enjoy. She's like, I want you to check in every morning before you go to school so I know you're alive. Other than that, have a great time. And this was before I didn't have a cell phone. I think I sent my family like one email a week, basically, to be like, I'm alive, don't talk to me, bye. But I basically got to spend a month in Spain just off the grid, just exploring these ancient alleyways, smelling things I'd never smelled before, seeing things I'd never seen, speaking a different language, just existing in this other world that I had never, that I'd always believed existed but had never tasted. And it was literally pure bliss. And that,
mm,
I mean, I remember it was on that trip that I was just like, okay, this is all I want to do with my life. I want to feel the way I feel here. I want to see every nook and cranny of this world. I want to experience all of it. And that it was on that trip that I realized I didn't ever want to have children, because I could see it and I was like, cool, if I have kids, that that's 20 years where I am tied to bringing them up, and that's 20 years that I can't be out living my life. And it was just, I look back and it was just all so clear in that. And then I got back to the States and it was like this. I had gone away for a month and lived this incredible life-changing experience where I learned so much about myself and the world, and I came back and like in that same span of time, everyone at home had just done the same thing that they'd always been doing. And I was so
Mhm.
fundamentally changed, and I didn't know how to bring me home. And so then I was super depressed after that. And then it started this cycle. That's, I mean, what really started the cycle of me, I would work a bunch. I had 3 jobs as a 15-year-old in my sophomore year of high school so that I could save up money to then go on like another exchange program the next summer. And that for a long time, that was the way I would do things. Is just work a bunch, save up a bunch of money, and then go and travel. But yeah, I mean, I guess to answer your original question, it's like there wasn't necessarily that, I never was going to do it the way that I was told I was supposed to do it. But
Mm.
that came into focus through my mental health as a child and then through experiencing what bliss can feel like. And for me having
Mhm.
that come through traveling. Um
Mhm.
yeah.
Mm, so beautiful. First, I am so glad that you're here. I'm so glad that you are alive and in your human vessel. You are such a light, and I don't, yeah, you just the essence of joy. Like you're like the essence of joy.
Oh, thank you.
And I'm glad that you were able to pull yourself out of the darkness, even if it was these ups and downs. I was paying attention to your hand movements, and even as you were doing the ups and downs, you were still going up. And so it's beautiful that you were able to continue continue to climb up the mountain, even if sometimes you may have, fallen back a little bit. And yeah, I really resonate with it because that is the age, right? Like 12, 13, 14, like that's the age where we hope that everyone's having a good time and still being kids. And for myself too, I had to grow up really fast. I grew up at a very young age. My parents got separated when I was 7, and that sort of that's what I was forced to grow up at that point. And being an only child as well, it was really just me. And eh, coming to a space being, 12, 13, where I think no, yeah, around that time too, maybe even a little bit younger, where my mental health was also suffering. And it's just being able to pull ourselves out of that space at an age where we shouldn't even really experience any of that stuff is it's a beautiful thing. It's beautiful and it's tragic. It's kind of this like dichotomy in a sense, like because it's like at that age I don't want anyone to experience those things, and at the same time we've arrived here.
Right.
And the travel, what a beautiful, the word privilege is coming up, and again I'm attaching my own meaning to the word, but like it is like a privilege to have been able
100%.
to travel in the ways that you did, and that's so so beautiful how that supported you on your journey. uh and I'm wondering too, because not everyone is fortunate enough to be able to travel, or maybe they haven't like tapped into the ways that you can do that, because there are very like economical ways to travel. Were there other things within that space that supported you in really stepping into like Lindy, into you as Lindy, and like, yeah, just doing for yourself? Because, like, yes, the travel was a big part of it. Were there other things that supported you, like, in doing that?
Yeah. So, no, I mean, first and foremost, like, it is an immense privilege. And it's something that I've struggled with a lot, where I'm just, I'm like, I know most people alive throughout history, let alone alive at this moment, don't have the ability to kind of live at all how they want to, whether that's traveling more or, however it is, and just the fact that I am able to live the life that I want to live is the greatest blessing imaginable, and I'm so grateful for it. That said, I mean, yeah, I mean, I could do a whole forever on the ways that my life is significantly more affordable than most people that I know in the States, but I also live in a way that most people don't seem to necessarily want to, yeah, but it's what you make it. But all of that said, I, through this journey, have found practices and things that have helped me center. Some of those being, meditation, different forms of energy work. Plant medicine is something that has really set my path. I started using psychedelics intentionally when I was probably like 26. And for a few years, a few times a year, would very intentionally enter a space, almost always by myself, which for me, I'm just a very inward person. Having other people's energy around, even in a, sober mindset, can be a lot, but let alone, when I'm kind of intentionally trying to enter those other realms and stuff. It's like, for me, it's a very personal thing. Um, but intentionally allowing myself to enter those spaces. And to me, there's a reason that psychedelic trips are called trips, because you are going on a journey. It's the same thing to me as intentionally traveling, where you don't necessarily know what you're going to encounter. You know that you're going somewhere else, and there's so much to learn and be seen and take away from that experience. And some of those things can be really challenging, in the same way that when you're, you know, if you're backpacking through Thailand, like, yeah, there might be a day where it's downpouring rain and you get food poisoning and you lose your passport, and like that day sucks, but you learn so much through that and you're gonna be fine. And with psychedelics too, it's like sometimes it's not all roses and sunshine. Sometimes there are dark places that you go to, but you go through that to understand. Um and I have, with psychedelics, it's like you end up getting a few years worth of explorations or therapy or whatever you want, in that few hour span, and then it's beautiful, but it's also a lot to integrate on the other side. So you kind of have to be prepared for it as best you can be. You can never really be prepared, but it's like, okay, so you just kind of accessed all of this, and then what do you do with that on the other side? And yeah, and then so the integration of that, things like meditation and yoga, and being incredibly mindful about anything that I consume, be that, what I'm eating and drinking, to the media that I'm consuming, to the people that I'm spending time with, that it's just becoming more and more intentional and clear about, yeah, how I exist in this world has all kind of helped me come to this more centered place.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful, because it's like there are so many options and so many tools and modalities that I feel, especially in Western culture, we either are not educated on, or there's this energy behind it where, you know, some people like put their noses up to meditation, or like, oh, I would never meditate. And it's like, well, you meditate like, you don't need to be sitting there like that's not just all that meditation is,
Right,
you can be meditating while you're brushing your teeth. If all you're
right.
doing is brushing your teeth, that can be a form of meditation. And just that, I appreciate you sharing the other things that have supported you, because I think it's important to really get out there that there are tools and there are practices that can be so supportive in whatever challenges that one is going through. And it doesn't have to be meditation, it doesn't have to be yoga, it doesn't have to be plant medicine, but there are these options out there other than maybe some of the ways that we're used to coping or dealing with things. And so my invitation to whoever's watching or listening would be to explore that. You know, if you feel called, you don't have to listen to what I'm saying, but if you feel called, explore some of these other tools to really get to a place of being centered and healed, if that's what you're looking for. Because I do know, just in hearing from different people, having different conversations, there are a lot of people who struggle with figuring out how to sort of move through some of the pain and the trauma, and there are things that can be supportive. And so, you know, thank you for sharing that. And for anyone who's listening or watching, if you want more tools or you're interested in talking more about it, you know, please feel free to reach out to me directly. I'm happy to like have that conversation and go more in depth. Because the healing is possible, even if we aren't aware of it. You know, myself, like we're here having this conversation, and we're in this state of awareness and consciousness where it may seem like we have all of our shit together. And it's like, I can only speak for myself, and also listening to the things that you've shared, like I've also walked through, like, I want to say hell, but I've like literally walked through the fire so many times, and I've been burned and I've been reborn. And I resonate so much with the phoenix, like literally burning myself, going to the ashes, you know, being in the ashes and being reborn. And so it's like, yeah, we may be sitting here and able to have these conversations because we've walked through some of this stuff, but we've also been in spaces in life where, at least for me, I didn't know that there was a way out. I couldn't see
Right.
an end to the darkness. All I saw around me was darkness, and questioned quite often what was the whole point.
Right.
And, you know, I'm proud of myself and I'm proud of you that we were able to move through those spaces and arrive here. And I, yeah, I just thank you so much for sharing, for being vulnerable and authentic. And I hope that this is, you know, I hope that this lands with whoever it's meant to land. And if it doesn't, please forgive me, and that's okay. um,
That's not on you,
and
baby.
yes, it's not on me. And,
Not
you
on
know,
you.
just if anything, if people are still listening or watching at this point, I hope you can just take away the fact that you're not alone, and that there are other people out there who we may be walking different paths, and our journeys may look different and our experiences are different. And I think the one thing that all of us have in common is we've experienced some sort of pain.
Yeah.
And it's possible to walk through that and come onto the other side and learn to embrace the pain and heal that pain. Um, and yeah, arrive in a space where the healing continues to happen and you're able to keep smiling and see the beauty in life. So thank you again just for being such a beautiful mirror for that. And I look forward to seeing what you continue to create in this world, how you continue to show up. And yeah,
Yeah.
honored to know you, and just, I love you very much.
I love you too. Yeah. Thank you so much for
Mm.
this. Um, yeah, and I feel called to share this one last thing, I guess, as you know, have
Mm-hmm.
been talking about. Sometimes I think that the easiest way to start, like if you don't know where to start, it's literally just like you you have some it can feel like you have no control over anything or your reality or everything is darkness or bleak, but like things as simple, and it might even sound silly, but things as simple as being like, unfollow the Instagram accounts that don't feel good and follow ones that share poetry, like
Mhm.
turn the TV off, you, so many things can shift just when you allow yourself in the ways that you can control to see more beautiful things, to see more peaceful things, to
Mhm.
start seeing the pieces of light. And it doesn't even need to be a meditation or an intentional thing that that can be way too big for a lot of people. Like you said, it's like, you don't need to start in those spaces, but realizing that there are certain ways, that you can just ever so slightly shift what is in your realm of consciousness, and choosing
Mhm.
things that are a little bit more beautiful, a little bit more peaceful, that cascades onto itself.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I appreciate you sharing that, because it's like one step at a time from one moment to the next, like just starting somewhere, starting with something that may be seemingly small. And I put that in quotes because it's all relative to each individual experience, and
Yeah.
just starting somewhere, just one action, and then there's a compound effect over time.
Yep.
And yeah, so thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you again for being here. You are
Yeah.
such a
Thank you
light,
for having
and
me.
yeah, I'm excited to continue this journey of life with you.
Me too. Mm.
Mm.
Sending you all of
Okay.
my love.
Thanks for being here and checking out this week's episode. I am truly grateful for your continued support, which allows this podcast to keep moving forward. If you feel the call, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. It's deeply appreciated. Until next time, let us continue to hold space for our shadows and allow our light to shine.